My name is Matthew Bryan. I'm a private detective. I'm not part of the police, but when things get too complicated for them to figure out, they call me to do it instead. I live alone. It's better this way. My one and only relationship didn't end in a good way because I was always too busy with work, always a new case to crack. My ex Judy had enough of this and decided to break up with me. She started having an affair with one of her colleagues. Me being a smart-ass detective, I figured it out quickly. It was like she wanted me to find out, to let me know I lost her because of how much of a self-indulged asshole I was. She left me for this guy, Adam. He was a huge fellow, 6'4" and muscular, while I was only 5'9" and barely fit. Anyway, this was almost 2 years ago. I moved on, I think. Everything during the past 3 years of my life changed, except for one thing. The case I was working on. The case that made no sense. The case I was so obsessed with solving that I spent a year not paying any attention to the only person I loved, forcing them to leave me. The case of the vampire. I know what it sounds like. Nonsense. But that's the best way I could describe it. Or, at least, that's the best conclusion I could come up with. There was a vampire in the city. 2 years prior to me taking the case, we've all started hearing cases of missing people. Individuals who had little to no family, who would go missing for days, weeks and even months, only to be found in the most random and remote locations with their bodies drained of blood. But no bite marks, no signs of struggle. Nothing, except for a needle mark in their arms. Someone drained their blood while having them drugged. The numbers were increasing, and it was getting out of hand, and that's when the police decided to call me to investigate the cases. I spent 5 months studying all the disappearances that occurred throughout the past 2 years, trying to find anything to link them together. For the first time in my life, I could not find anything newer than what I was briefed. All victims were individuals with little to no family. They go out at night. They're not seen for days or months until they are found in a remote location, drained of blood, with nothing but a needle mark. I couldn't even find a pattern or frequency for these occurrences, not even a motive. What was that thing or person, and what's their goal? I spent the next 7 months doing extensive research for any similar cases in any part of the world. I was amazed to find that this was a somewhat common case in many places, but with different time spans. It was like whatever was doing this was preying on people throughout history in secret until it became too frequent that the creature decides to move to another part of the world. I found accounts dating back to the 1600s. Some European farm town, where elders and children, mainly orphans, started going missing only to be found drained of blood. Needless to say, everyone at the time believed in demonic creatures and the like, and thus, I came to call this creature the vampire. In order to be a good investigator, I always believed that I should let the paranormal and supernatural be up for debate when logic is nowhere to be found. I studied a lot of mythologies and folklore to be familiar with the supernatural. Not that I actually encountered mythological creatures or anything, but still, I found this idea to be somewhat amusing. During those 7 months, my life with Judy was deteriorating very fast. We barely spoke. I didn't know what was going on in her life. She'd be gone for long times without telling me where she was. I tended to busy myself with the research, however. It was a good escapism for me. I won't lie, a part of me misses her a lot. I miss that bright smile that she always wore when I cracked the case. Those beautiful hazel eyes that I lose myself when I stared at. She was the prettiest and sweetest girl I've ever met. She broke my heart when she left. She left without a word. One day I woke up and she was just gone. I don't blame her, to be honest. As much as I loved her and she meant the world to me, I was really bad at showing it. But that's all over. No need to reminisce about the past. Last night was one of the most bizarre nights I've ever had. I was invited to a friend's wedding ceremony. He was a mutual friend of Judy and Adam as well, so naturally, I was expecting to see them. Not that I wanted to, but a small part of me was somewhat excited to see Judy again. I haven't seen her in 2 years. To my delight and utter disgust, I was seated next to a couple. We talked a little, some catching up. They moved together in a new home. I didn't have much to say. The case basically gone cold. Ever since the case was handed to me, the number of victims decreased drastically. It was like this vampire realized they were starting to get noticed, so they became very cautious and did not attack as frequent as they used to. That didn't mean I gave up on the case, however. I was still responsible for finding out who this thing or person was and bring them to justice. I did not want to talk about it in front of Judy and Adam. I didn't want her to see that I was still obsessed with the case that ruined our relationship. Moreover, I didn't want her to see me as a failure that couldn't solve the case. Also, I didn't want Adam to think that he was in any way better than me. I hated him with all my guts. And I hated myself even more. After all this time, I was still so self-centered and only thinking of myself. An hour later, everyone started to mingle with the other guests, and I stood alone at a corner with a glass in hand. I wanted to be alone. I didn't expect things to go that way. I thought I was over it, but I couldn't stand seeing Judy with this guy. That's when I saw Judy coming to me with that lovely smile of hers.
Enjoying the party?
Well, you know me. I'd rather bury my head in papers than being around all these people.
Yeah, I know. So, how have you been? Really?
She sounded genuinely concerned. I just stared at her. I didn't know how to respond. She continued.
I'm sorry for the way I left. I'm sorry for everything I did to you, but you really needed to wake up from that state you were in. I couldn't stand living with you, drowning in this case and just watching you, not knowing what to do or how to help you. God, I'm sorry.
Judy, you have nothing to be sorry about. It's alright. I'm well aware of the way I was and the way I became too self-centered. I understand your decision, and I'm not mad at you, if that's what you want to hear. I cursed myself for how stupid I sounded. I was beginning to turn around to end this awkward conversation. Then she hugged me and whispered into my ear.
I left my diary in my drawer before leaving. Have you read it?
I was shocked. What diary? I've never been through her stuff after she left. I only drowned myself even more in the case to escape the loneliness and hurt for the past 2 years. I was confused. What diary? What are you talking about? I finally asked, pulling myself away.
You'll have all the answers you need there. I hope you can forgive me.
She said, voice breaking and tears beginning to fill her eyes as she walked away. What was going on? What answers did she mean? What did she mean with, I hope you can forgive me? I felt a mixture of confused emotions. And that hug. God, I really missed her. When I got home, I started looking for that diary she told me about. I always thought she left without a word, but now this. I didn't know how to feel about it. I finally found the diary with a note attached to it, written on the back, "Don't read unless you're willing to believe." I felt a panic rising within me, and my heart started pounding. Judy, did you leave me another case? I opened the note, and it read,
Dear Matthew, I'm sorry I'm leaving. I can't find the words to describe how much hurt and pain this is causing me, but I'm doing this to protect you. They will come for me, sooner or later. The cases have become too goddamn popular, and I wouldn't want you to be there when they do. They leave no witnesses. They like to remain a secret to the outside world. This creature, this thing, this vampire you're searching for, it's me. I am sorry I never told you any of that, but it was for your safety. I'm leaving you not because of what you've become or how obsessed you are with this case, but because you're starting to draw too much attention and I don't want us to be associated. I hope you're safe, and I did the right thing. Please forgive me. I left this diary of mine for you because it will contain all you need to know about me and about this vampire thing. Goodbye, my love. Judy.
I didn't know how to react to this. What I was reading, I was panicking and crying, and I wanted to scream my lungs out. My mind was breaking. I was conflicted. Judy, she was the one I've been chasing all this time. I know I called the creature the vampire, but that didn't mean I was looking forward to actually finding one. I thought it was some mad doctor stealing blood for some sinister reason, but it was much simpler. Just a vampire. A vampire on the run. A vampire that I've been living with for 7 years. A vampire that I've loved with all my heart. This was much bigger than I thought. This could be the biggest case of my life. It was proof that I was right to study mythology and folklore. I was right to keep the supernatural up for debate. It was sickening to know it was also personal. I kept staring at that note for hours, feeling lost. Who was coming after her? Who was she protecting me from? They like to stay secret. I had a million questions. Then, I looked at the diary. It was leather-bound and very old. I wondered how it was still preserved after all this time. I was potentially holding a historical artifact that changes a lot of what we actually know. Something big was brewing up, and I was only scratching the surface. I was in shock and still struggling to register what I found out about Judy. Looking for answers, I opened the diary and started to read.
August 19th, 1689. My name is Alice Richard. Yesterday was my 16th birthday. Everyone is talking about the orphan boy who went missing. He's been missing for 5 days, they say. I don't leave the castle very often, but I hear all the news. I think I know where he is. My father, Jeremiah Richard, always told me stories since I was young about a ritual in our family. My great-grandfather, Sir Richard Allen, was the ruler of this little town of ours. During his rule, a strong famine and drought hit the lands, and his people were dying by the hundreds. Sir Richard wanted to help his people, but he did not know how. One night, he was visited by a strange man from a foreign land. The man claimed he could help Sir Richard save his people, but with a price. Not money, but something else. He told Sir Richard that on his son's 16th birthday he must bring a child to him and make him drink his blood. If he failed to do so, town would suffer a much worse plague than the one they suffered from, and the only way to end it would be to kill his own son and drink his blood as a reminder of his broken word. Sir Richard was desperate and wasn't aware of what he was getting himself into, and thus he agreed upon the strange terms of this strange man. The years went on, the plague was over, and the people began to prosper once again. However, when Sir Richard's son's 16th birthday came, Sir Richard forgot his word. And he thought the man would have forgotten about it too. It had been 10 years already. He didn't want his child to drink the blood of another kid. So he didn't. 10 days later, all cattle fell ill, all the children got a heavy fever, and all the land got struck with a heavy drought. Sir Richard was going insane with fear over what he had done. He realized he doomed the entire town, and the only way to save it was to kill his own son and drink his blood. It took him 5 days to decide. He couldn't let his people suffer like this. He told his son he was taking him on a hunting trip, and then he took him to an altar that was in the middle of the woods. This altar was the very same one he made the pact with the strange man upon. He brought his son to it, slit his throat, and drank his blood. The strange man appeared to him. Sir Richard was furious with heartbreak and anger toward the strange man and lunged at him with his knife. But the strange man dodged him and smashed his face to a tree when he spoke to him. You knew the consequences of your actions. You knew if you didn't bring a child to your son and make him drink his blood, the town would suffer, and yet you let it happen. Now you will face the fate I had in store for your son. You will be a vampire. You'll feast upon the blood of your townspeople, and your other child will be a vampire as well, and all your heir after you. House Allen will always be the ruling house in this town, but each member of your family will be a vampire and have to drink the blood of a child when they turn 16, or this time, the consequences will be far worse than the plagues. And then he disappeared. Sir Richard laid on the ground crying and looking at his son's bloodless corpse. He couldn't believe what he did. And ever since, it's been a tradition in our family that when a member turns 16, we bring a child from town and let the member drink his blood, thus turning into a vampire. That poor orphan. I know he is kept in our cellar downstairs. I could hear him crying all week. And I shall drink his blood and join my father Jeremiah in being a vampire.
I was shocked and disgusted with what I've read. What the hell was that? Judy or Alice Richard or whatever the hell she was called? Could this be the early accounts I read about? Who was the strange man that turned him into a family of vampires? Why would he do that? I kept reading through the diary to find out more about these vampires.
November 3rd, 1700. A few days ago, I met a young prince from a neighboring town at our annual ball. He was handsome and intelligent. He seemed to really like me, but I could tell his intentions were not pure. He kept following me throughout the entire castle. We shared a dance, and I gave him a little kiss on the cheek. Poor lad went crazy. I led him down to my cellars, told him no one will find us here, and he was so excited about it. Poor fool. He had no idea what he was getting himself into. He's been locked in my cellar for a while now. His blood is so fresh and it tastes so good. I treat him with as much care as possible. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I grew to like him. In our family, we made an oath to never reveal to the world what we are and to never meddle with human affairs. The only humans we let ourselves be friends with are the ones we turn into vampires later, and then only for breeding when our numbers are too little. My father still hasn't found out about the boy in my cellar. I don't know what he'll do when he does. November 5th, 1700. My father found the young prince while I was in the cellar with him. I got a bit carried off, and I decided to fraternize myself with him while feasting on his blood. No one has ever done anything like that in our family, and my father was furious with me for it. He killed the poor lad, ripping him to shreds and feeding him to our hounds. He said I'd be locked in my room for a year, and to never talk to anyone other than him and my brother.
At this point, I was truly disturbed by everything I've read so far. I didn't want to continue. My sweet Judy, what are you? I still couldn't believe that I was reading her diary. I wanted to know more about this strange man she mentioned in her first entry. I began to do my research and read about any historical accounts that might mention deals with demons or sorcerers. I found mentions of a bizarre case in Japan in the 1960s about a man who killed his wife and daughter, then disappeared. He was found 3 days later hanged in the woods, most probably self-inflicted. The story, according to one of his neighbors, goes as follows. The man, a World War II veteran, was said to have been struggling to keep a stable job to provide for his family. He was said to have been meeting a strange man behind his house. He heard the man pleading for help from the stranger, and he told him he would help him if only he would do one thing for him. The neighbor couldn't hear exactly what the stranger told the man, but it made him furious and angry. He told the stranger that he could never do such a thing and left. 3 months later, the neighbor heard screaming and arguing from the man's apartment, but he didn't bother checking. The next day, the man was nowhere to be found, and the wife and daughter were both found dead in the kitchen, their throats slit. That was truly disturbing, but what I read next made it all the more awful. It was said that when the man was found hanged, he had a note in his pocket, his suicide note. It read, "I cannot live with the shame of what I've done. I made this deal to help my family, but the cost was too high. That evil sorcerer, he made me do terrible things. He helped me find a good, stable job and be able to provide for my family. But I had to do something terrible for him. I was to kidnap a child, drink his blood, and feed him to my family without their knowledge. I was desperate to help them, so I did it. I kidnapped a child and drank his blood and chopped his meat into small bits and served him to my family as dinner one night. I was able to provide for them, but I couldn't live with what I did. I broke my pact with that sorcerer and told my wife about what I had done. She wanted to tell the police, so I had to silence her and my daughter. I can now see that this was the consequence of breaking the pact. I am filled with shame and grief, and I have no reason to live anymore." What the hell have I just read? This was getting more and more disturbing. I found that around that same time, there was truly a boy who went missing and never found. It's possible that this boy was the one he kidnapped. Who was this sorcerer or demon or whatever the fuck he was? And why did he demand such things for people who were desperate for help? I decided to keep reading the diary. My case was the vampire after all, not the sorcerer.
January 25th, 1715. During the year I spent locked away, I learned why my father never wanted me to have a man. He never wanted the outside world to know of our existence. He was afraid they would want to hunt us down, and he was right. Apparently, the strange man that appeared to Sir Richard made his presence known to another person in a nearby town. It was the story of Sir Richard all over again, and a new vampire family existed in the neighboring town. But they made a mistake and made their presence known to the world. This resulted in the townspeople burning down their castle and hunting them down for terrorizing them. The vampire family was far too strong, though, and they massacred everyone in their town. That's when we heard that some guild of foreigners came to our country and began asking questions about vampires. They were hunters of some sort. They are known as the Vampire Hunters Secret Society. And you guessed it from the name, they were secret and not many people knew of their existence, if any. How I got to learn such knowledge will be a secret I'm taking to my grave, but that's not important now. Those hunters managed to locate the neighboring vampire family and slaughtered them all, down to the last one. It took them years to do it, but this war was over 2 years ago. Now the hunters have taken that town as theirs, and they are its residents. By now, many of our townspeople started suspecting our family's true nature. We don't age, we rarely leave our castle, and occasionally some poor kids or elders go missing. We worried that they might contact the hunters. We were far less in number than the family they slaughtered. We had to act. My father, Jeremiah Richard, being our current leader, decided that the best way was to make a pact with the hunters. Yes, of all the stupid ideas a person could come up with, this was his. But in order to not put us all in danger, he told us to leave the country and travel somewhere else in case he got killed. He went to the hunters himself, announcing that he was the only vampire in town. He made a deal with their leader to leave him and all of the other vampires across the world in peace if we don't meddle with human affairs and only kill for necessity, not for sport. I was surprised when he found us 2 nights ago and told us all about it. Now we and the hunters coexist peacefully, in secret.
Now, what the actual fuck am I reading? First, I learned vampires actually exist. Then there's this strange sorcerer who turns people into evil monsters. And now, a secret society of vampire hunters? What the hell was that? And how did they manage to stay hidden for so long? All these questions were burning in my brain. But I won't be able to find any answers unless I kept reading.
March 9th, 1799. I can't recall my real name at this point. I've been all over the world, constantly changing my identity whenever people start getting their suspicions about me and my family. For now, I go under the name Mary Allen. We've been living in peace with the hunters for the past 84 years, save for a few rogue individuals who decided to go on a killing spree. We helped the hunters to hunt our own kind down and kill them to avoid war with them. I am ashamed of that. It's our nature, and we cannot keep ourselves in check forever. Sooner or later, many more will do the same. Will we be ready to hunt down more of us just to avoid war with the enemy? I cannot stand this. My father, I tried talking to him about it, telling him we should gather our strength together and we can take the hunters down. But he just shunned me and told me to never bring it up again. I don't know for how long we can keep coexisting in peace, but I am sure, sooner or later, one of us will no longer be a secret, and war between us is inevitable.
Always the rebellious one, Judy, huh? I have to admit, I still admired her for what she was. I began to wonder, was she always the way I knew her? That kind and sweet person? Was this just for show? Was she a monster, so the errors of her way? I would soon find out.
September 2nd, 1868. Today, I had to kill one of my own kind. I had to do it with my own hands. I can't believe what I just did. Meryl was my friend for the past 10 years. Like I predicted and told my father, she went rogue, just like more others will because it is in our nature. I couldn't let the hunters get to her. I couldn't let the other vampires find her first either. I had to find her myself first and try to stop her. I tried to talk her out of it, to come back with me, and I would convince them to spare her, but I knew she wouldn't let that happen. I knew she had no control over her thirst. It wasn't something you can just turn off like the machines we have nowadays. No, it was an insatiable hunger. The more you feed it, the more it demands. She left me no other choice but to stop her. right where she was. I can't stand this anymore. We can't stay hidden in fear for eternity. We are stronger than them. They're just men and we are vampires. Why wouldn't Jeremiah unite us against them?
The more I read this diary, the more I felt drawn to Judy. I don't know what it was, but it was like she had me with some spell. I now know why I loved her. She's always intrigued me, like one of my cases. She felt so easy to read, yet I could never figure out what's behind that readable person. I just felt an urge to read more and find out more about her.
April 7th, 1930. After Meryl's incident, I can no longer stand living with my father. His entire existence disgusted me. My hunger and thirst were getting too much for me to control, but it was then that the World War happened. Everyone was so busy with that catastrophic event that I started attacking with more frequency unchecked. But I knew that at some point this war will be over, and I would have to control myself again. I went back to Jeremiah, but I never told him of what I had done. I learned that my brother was killed in the war. He was found feasting upon dead soldiers from his battalion, so he was executed. The leader of the hunters and Jeremiah made sure that this story never got out to the world. Now I was really furious with Father. Not even his own son's death could break his fear from the hunters. Yesterday I got into an argument with him. I brought up again the idea of mine to unite ourselves and kill all the hunters. He got so mad and told me if I ever bring this up again, I would be exiled. I don't know how much more I can put up with any of this. July 19th, 1950. As soon as I started to calm down and subside with Jeremiah, the second war started, and I took this as a chance to run again and go on another spree. I never should have given in to my hunger. In 1943, I was feasting almost every day. I didn't care about any of our old rules. I was so mad with Jeremiah that I was doing everything he told me not to do just to vent out. I even slept with several men and women before feasting upon them. I still remember their screams and cries for help. And then one night, I'd been so careless that I forgot to cover my tracks. A hunter found me, and I knew at that moment I had to make a choice that Jeremiah was too much of a coward to make. A choice I wanted to make a long time ago. I didn't even give the hunter the chance to catch me in the act. I lunged at him and feasted upon him. I was now declaring war against the hunters. I knew that Jeremiah wouldn't approve it, so I wasn't shocked when I found he renounced me from the family and stated that I was acting as an independent vampire, and the hunters could do with me what they pleased. I guess the perk of being his daughter was that he didn't send any vampires after me. He just left the entire matter for the hunters. So, here I am. I've been on the run ever since. I don't spend more than a year in one place. I try to control my hunger so I don't leave any tracks. I hope that Jeremiah will forgive me, or at least change his mind and unite the vampires to come to save me.
Oh God. Now, I was beginning to understand what she was talking about in that note. My sweet Judy. She was in grave danger. I was powerless to help her. Hell, I might have been the reason she's on the run again. What have I done? I was starting to panic again. I spent the entire night reading that diary and taking notes. I didn't realize morning has come. I didn't know what to do. Then, I realized there was another entry in the diary. I opened it, too worried of what I might read.
August 18th, 2021. Today is my birthday. My name is Judy Bryan. I've been on the run for the past 60 years until I met this man, Matthew. Our rules and laws forbade us from living among men. I was on the run because I broke those rules. I meddled in the affairs of man, and I made my presence too obvious. I've never broken this rule, however. This was the first time. I don't know what it is about this man, but I find him truly fascinating. He's a private detective, and I've seen him solve some of the most insane and disturbing cases I've ever seen. Yes, even according to my vampiric standards. I remember when I turned 16 all those centuries ago. I remember how I felt when I had to drink the blood of the orphan. I remember how I had to give in to my lust for blood. I remember the prince I used for my own pleasure and hunger. I remember my friend Meryl when I had to kill her. I remember my anger toward Jeremiah, and I remember all those people I killed just because I felt like doing it. I remember how horrible of a monster I am. But something inside me changed when I met Matthew. I don't know how to describe it, but I felt his kindness thrive in me. The more time I spend around him, the more I feel myself become almost human. Ever since I went on the run, I struggled to control my hunger. But something about him makes all these struggles go away. For brief moments, I forget what I am. I forget about the hunters who were trying to get to me, about my father Jeremiah who threw me to them and cowered in fear. I don't recall feeling anything other than anger and hunger my entire life. But this man, he made me feel love for the first time. I still try to satiate my hunger every now and then. I have to maintain myself. But recently, I think I've been feeding a little too much. I've been seeing my victims in the news reports and in the missing people pages. And I heard last night that they were calling Matthew to investigate this case. I've lived with him for 7 years now. I know he's smart. He'll figure something out, or at the very least, he'll draw too much attention to the case. This could lead the hunters directly to us. I can't have them coming to him for me. He is the only thing I care about in this world. I cannot let them hurt him. So, I will go. I will leave. Let him think I'm leaving him for another guy. I don't want him to come after me. But Matthew, if you're reading this, I want you to know that you're the only person I've ever loved in this world. Please forgive me for what I'm about to do, and whatever might come next.
It was 8 in the morning already. After I read that last entry, I could do nothing but sit on the floor and cry. Judy, Mary, Alice, the woman I loved. I felt betrayed, conflicted, scared and heartbroken. It was a heartbreak I haven't felt before, not even when she left me. A pain so deep I never knew humans could feel. I was a very lonely person. People always assumed it was cool. Detective Matthew Bryan, that mysterious young man, always arriving at the crime scene and solve the most complicated cases. But that was never how I felt. Yes, I'm very good at solving cases, and yes, I never made any friends from the police guys I worked with. But I never saw myself as glorified as they saw me. I was pathetic. What was I living for? I had no one. I didn't care about anyone but me in my cases. Something in me changed when I met Judy. I remember the first night I saw her. It was a cold December night. People were getting ready for Christmas, while I was working on a very dark case. There was a serial killer who's been terrorizing the city for over a year. His kill count was 26, average 2 victims per month. All the victims were females. Their bodies were found mutilated with various signs of struggle. Also, most of them were raped. This sick man loved to torture and rape his victims while they were fully conscious. All victims were said to have been seen at public places before they went missing, only to be found in that terrible state a week or two later. I was always on edge, and this case was really getting under my skin. I've been on his trail for 9 months now and still no results. The police were also getting very impatient with me. I was supposed to be the one who solves it, not get stuck like them. I went into a coffee shop. I wanted to get some warmth and a hot beverage. As I entered, I could see this barista standing very tense. I could read anxiety and distress all over her body. It took me only a few seconds to realize why. There was a man at the desk staring at her. He was staring in a very creepy way, like a predator. I could see how uncomfortable she was. When I think about it now, maybe she was just fighting the urge to just lunge at him and drain him of his blood, ending his pathetic life. Anyway, I decided to do something, so I came into view, blocking his gaze from her. Suddenly, her face shifted and I could see her clearly. Her body relaxed and she smiled at me, asking for my order. She had shoulder-length hair. It was a mixture of light brown and blonde. Her hazel eyes glimmered as she smiled at me. I was awestruck immediately. I've never seen a girl this beautiful in my life. As a matter of fact, I rarely interacted with people or tried to be open with them. Not since I lost my mother and 2 weeks later and got my heart broken by my school crush. I was younger at that time. These events were so hard for me to take that I locked myself from the outside world, only drowning myself more and more into the mythology and fiction that I loved to read. I was about 15, and that was when I started to read more about crime cases and thriller novels as well, and that's how I started my detective career. I solved my first case at 20. I wasn't part of the police or anything, but there was a famous case at that time that they couldn't solve. But I did. I managed to solve it and came forth to them to inform them my findings. They became in contact with me ever since, calling upon me to help them whenever things get too complicated. I never was a talkative person and rarely interacted with them. Anyway, something was different when I saw her smiling at me. For the first time in my life, I felt an uncontrollable urge to talk. We had some small talk. I learned her name and she told me she's only been in town for 5 weeks. I guess that was her new guys. She asked me about what I do, and I told her only very few about my work. I preferred keeping my personal life for me, even if I felt like talking to her. The more we talked, the more I was drawn to her. I couldn't break eye contact. I was kind of lost in her eyes. I broke from that trance when the creepy man got up and finally left. She sighed in relief and thanked me. She gave me my cup, and after I drank it, I was on my way. I didn't want to leave. She was so sweet, and speaking with her was very heartwarming for someone who was as anxious and stressed as I was. But I knew I had to leave. As soon as I walked out, I got a call from the police. There was another victim.
My heart sank and I could feel the stress and anxiety coming back to me. I rushed to the crime scene, but this time something was different. The victim was alive. I don't know how she survived, but I was glad she did. It seemed the killer was in a rush and didn't perfect his mutilating. He only slashed her right arm and stabbed her belly, but it wasn't lethal, luckily. She was taken to the hospital and remained unconscious for 3 days. I stayed by her side all that time, as if she was my own mother dying. Throughout the 3 days, I could still remember the pretty barista and her cute smile. I could still hear her soothing voice in my ears, and it helped me relax a little. This was the first time in my life that I felt such love from within me. It showed when I decided to stay with the poor victim and not leave her side. On the 4th day, when she eventually woke up, I told her what had happened and asked her if she remembered anything. She told me she was at a Christmas shop buying decorations for her house. She was on her way back home when she noticed a stranger following her. She tried to increase her pace, but he got to her and pulled her into a side alley. He stabbed her, but she couldn't scream, and then he raped her and cut her arm while doing it. She heard a siren from a distance, and he ran away, leaving her to bleed to death. And that's when the police found her. They were patrolling the area for any possible troublemakers at such a late time at night. They weren't expecting to find her. I asked her if she could remember anything specific about his features to help me identify him. This was my lucky day. She did not only do that, but she was an artist and drew his face perfectly. I was shocked when I saw her drawing. It was the man from the coffee shop. I then began to put the pieces together. He was eyeing the barista to be his next victim. I angered him when I broke his gaze, so he rushed outside wanting to quench his thirst. He happened to come across this poor lady and did his deed. He wasn't prepared, however, and that's why he ran without finishing his work. It made perfect sense as the crime scene was not far from the coffee shop as well. I was starting to panic. The barista, she's his next victim. I rushed to the coffee shop looking for the barista. She was taking orders from people. When she saw me, she gave me a smile, but then she realized how distressed I looked. I ran to the cashier and asked him where they kept their camera feeds. He asked me who I was and under what authority I am demanding such a thing. I was not part of the police. I couldn't get access unless I had an official statement. I called one of the policemen and told him about the situation. He came an hour later with a warrant to search the footage. During that hour, I got to speak with Judy. She asked me what was going on. I told her not to worry and everything would be fine. She asked me where I've been for the past 3 days, and I told her about the victim. This was the first time I shared a personal matter with her. She looked at me with genuine concern and put a hand on my shoulder. She asked me if I was okay. I stared at her eyes, and I don't know how much time had passed, but it felt like a lifetime, although it was only a few seconds. I then replied with a calm voice, Matthew Bryan. She was confused. Last time she told me her name was Judy, but I never said mine. She blinked twice, then she understood what I meant. I took her hand off my shoulder and gave her a reassuring nod. When the police came, we checked the feed and managed to get his face. We tracked him down and found where he lived. He was arrested within a week and case solved. After that, I took daily visits to the coffee shop at the start and the end of my day. I just wanted to see her. We talked a lot and I got to know her better. Or at least, I thought so at the time. I've never been fascinated by anyone in my life the way I was fascinated by her. She felt so easy to talk to, and I felt drawn to her more and more. I asked her out and we went on a few dates. 6 months later, she moved in with me and we lived together, a happy couple. I was no longer lonely, no longer that closed person. Even the guys I worked with at the police could see it. I became more friendly with them and more talkative. I was truly happy. Now when I think about it, with the newly acquired knowledge I have,
I didn't know what to feel. The past 8 years of my life were a lie. All this time, I felt I was the hero who saved the girl he loved, but no. She could have killed that predator without breaking a sweat. I was not her savior. She used me to hide from the world. For 8 years, I was her cloaking spell. I couldn't tell if she really loved me. I mean, if she did, why would she lie to me and keep all that from me? Didn't she trust me? And if she didn't love me, why did she leave to protect me from those so-called vampire hunters, or even from herself? Why didn't she kill me and feast upon my blood? Did I somehow remind her of that prince she locked in her cellar all those centuries ago? I was so tired. I spent the entire night awake finding out a lot of shocking and disturbing facts that I wish I never knew. I tried to get some sleep. I don't know how long I have slept, but something strange happened. When I awoke, I wasn't home. I found myself in a dark room, bounded to a chair. Was this a dream? What was happening?
"1720. It's been 5 years since my father made peace with the hunters. We have to discipline ourselves in order to survive. We no longer kill people and drink their blood unless necessary. We hunt a few unfortunate souls every once in a while, keep them locked away from the world and drain their bodies of blood. We store blood to sustain ourselves for a month or two. Sometimes we don't even drain the blood of humans, but that of animals instead. Of course, we can still eat normal food to sustain ourselves, but this helps only a little. Father believes this is for the best, and I agree. We don't terrorize the world, and in return we get to live our lives in peace, unknown. My brother Adrian, however, disagrees. He believes we have been blessed with powers and we should use them. He wants us to be like those vampire families that slaughtered the people of their town. He wants us to embrace our monstrous nature and be the rulers of this world. He believes we could turn more people into vampires, and we could build an army to fight off the hunters, but he would never dare to do such a thing. Jeremiah would never allow that to happen. And Adrian is smart enough not to anger Jeremiah. Today, I heard someone has gone rogue, and they went on a killing spree. How could one of us do that? Jeremiah risked his life to make peace with the hunters, and this idiot is just willing to undo all of that just because he can't control himself? A messenger from the hunters arrived an hour ago. He told Jeremiah that the hunters are aware of the rogue vampire, and warned us that if he doesn't stop in the next 48 hours, they will annihilate all of us. Jeremiah, however, told him to tell his leaders that he has a better offer for them. In order to prove his goodwill, he will send his best vampires to hunt down this rogue and bring his life to an end. We shall help the hunters to kill this rogue vampire. We are now gathered to discuss Jeremiah's decision. Adrian asked,
"Are you seriously going to kill one of us?"
If it means I will avoid war with the hunters, then yes. I will not let this fool undo everything I built for you all.
Jeremiah replied. "I volunteer," I interrupted. "I will find this rogue and stop him." Everyone stared at me in awe, but I continued. "My father is right. Can't you see? We've been living in peace, finally, for the last 5 years. Those hunters will kill us all if we don't stop this madman." Adrian scowled at me and replied,
"So you think killing one of us instead of standing by his side and defend him is the right thing to do? Of course. Always Daddy's girl, doing whatever pleases him."
I said I'd stop him, not kill him. I don't like this any more than any of you, but if he won't listen to reason, then I don't have another choice, I retorted. Jeremiah finally spoke.
You will do no such thing. Adrian, pick 5 of our best trackers. Find him and bring me his head. You have 36 hours.
What? No, Father, I want to do that, I said, but Jeremiah cut me off.
This meeting is over. My decision is final. Adrian, if you fail, I will kill all 7 of you myself and send your heads to the hunters. Understood?
Everyone was silent. I've never seen my father in this state before, not even when he found out about the prints in my cellar. After everyone was dismissed and Adrian went to pick up his squad, I came to Jeremiah and held his arm. "Why wouldn't you let me go?" I asked. He looked at me with empathy and sighed.
Sweetie, I know you love me, and you want to do what pleases me. I am so proud of you. But this is dangerous. Besides, you already are following my new rules. Adrian needs to learn to follow it like you. This will discipline him.
He hugged me and stroked my hair before kissing my forehead and sending me away. 17 hours later, Adrian returned with the rogue vampire. He was bound and tied. Jeremiah stared at Adrian with such fury.
I thought I told you to bring me his head.
Adrian gulped before replying.
I thought it would be better to bring him here. Maybe you could talk him out of what he's doing, or do whatever you may with him.
Jeremiah's eyes were burning with rage now. He got up and slapped Adrian with such force that he fell to the floor and yelled,
Get up! Kill this filth now! Let this be an example to anyone who doesn't follow my orders from now on.
Adrian slowly got up, tears of rage starting to form in his eyes. With one swift wave of his hand, he sent the rogue's head flying and Jeremiah caught it, mid-air.
Good work, Commander Adrian. From this day, you will be responsible for training more trackers and forming rogue hunters.
Jeremiah said, so calmly, unlike the rage he was in just a few seconds ago, as if he was someone else. Of course, I will be the first volunteer to join this new training. I will be the best rogue hunter, and I will not let anyone destroy my father's legacy. "1995. I was holding this pathetic creature by her throat. She was flailing her arms, trying to get to me as I held her at the edge of a rooftop. This is the 8th hunter I've come across this month. I let the others live, and that's probably how they keep finding me. I will leave no trail to follow this time. Do you know? I was the first rogue hunter, I told her. I could see the light starting to leave her eyes as I kept squeezing her neck harder. I used to be like the other vampires. I believed Jeremiah was right, and we should kill rogue vampires to avoid war with the hunters. A small price for peace. That's what he used to say. But in time, I learned the truth. We do not need peace. We need freedom. We should not be living in fear of you. You divided us and made us kill one another because Jeremiah fears you. I tried to talk to him, but he won't listen. And now, here we are. He disowned me and told your leaders they are free to do what they will with me, but he won't interfere.
I spent a year trying to hide from the grief and heartbreak I felt when Judy left. I thought I was over all this, and it was all behind me. But life has this way of making you face your grief. Last night, I saw her again,
and I felt all the pain I've been avoiding for the past year hitting me all at once. It was suffocating. I tried my best not to let it get to me, but then she came to me and told me about her diary. The diary she left for me to know why she left. The diary that broke my mind and heart into pieces as I read through it in utter disbelief. I fell in a deep sleep as if I had just finished running a marathon. I was so tired and fatigued that I didn't feel myself being abducted and brought to this dark room I was now in. A light bulb flickered from above, and I could see I wasn't alone in the room. There was someone else tied to a chair just like me. It took my eyes a minute to adjust to the light, and I could see now who it was. It was Adam. He was violently shaking, trying to free himself. I don't think he realized I was in the room with him, because when I called out to him, he jumped in his seat. "Adam, is that you?"
What? Who's there?
He replied, panic sounding in his every syllable. "It's Matthew. Do you have any idea where are we? Do you remember how you got here?" I asked, trying to help him gather his thoughts and focus.
No, I have no idea. I was returning home when I heard a faint whisper behind me. I turned around to look and then I blacked out. The next thing I know, I woke up here.
He was starting to relax a little bit. "Do you know where's Judy? Is she okay?" I couldn't stop myself from asking. The hunters got to me and the man she was living with. It was only a matter of time before they catch her too.
I don't know. We had a fight last night after the party, and she said she wanted to be alone, but she wasn't home when morning came. I had to go to work, and I was hoping she'd be back when I returned.
He sounded ashamed or upset. I was starting to worry even more now. What if they got to her before us and brought us here to torture us in front of her? I was trying to calm Adam, but now I was the one panicking. "We need to get out of here, quickly," I said, trying to free myself.
Yeah, no shit. I've been trying to, but these restraints are too tight.
Then, a door somewhere I couldn't see opened. Someone walked in and I could see his figure slowly approaching. He walked towards Adam and slapped him. He then proceeded to ask,
"Hey, big guy. Do you happen to know where your girlfriend is?"
He sounded cold and a little sarcastic. He didn't give Adam a chance to reply before he continued.
"Well, maybe you're still asleep. I'll give you something to wake you."
He grabbed Adam's head violently, pulling his hair and opening his eye. He then pulled out something from his pocket. It looked like eye drops, and then he started pouring it into Adam's eye. Adam screamed in a way I never thought a tough-looking guy as him would. I squinted to see better, and that's when I realized why Adam was screaming the way he did. He wasn't putting eye drops into his eyes. It was acid.
"Alright, I'll give you a minute to remember now."
The man said, and then he turned to me.
"Now, who do we have here? The smart detective. I bet you're smart enough to tell me where she is without forcing me to hurt you. Am I right?"
If you believe I'm that smart, then I'm smart enough to know I'm not coming out of here alive anyway. I don't know where she is, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. I tried to sound as much confident as I could, but I was really scared. In all my years of detective work, I've seen many disturbing cases, but I never got to be in the victim's chair. I now was, and I was terrified.
"Fine. I'll get back to you in a moment,"
he said, and then he turned towards Adam again. Every time he spoke, he made me feel more and more uneasy. And not because he was intimidating or behaving insane, but because he just sounded very normal. He got to Adam and held his head to face him.
"Come on, Adam. I know you have information that can help me. Spit it out, son."
"Careful what you wish for." Adam spat into his face and tried to headbutt him, but the man got away before Adam could reach him.
"Oh. Now I'm disappointed."
Fuck you!
Adam replied immediately. The man pulled a knife from his pocket and held Adam's face once more.
He put the knife against Adam's cheek and spoke. This time he sounded angry.
This is the last time I'll ask you, you worthless piece of shit. Where is the vampire?
I was shocked. Adam doesn't know what she was, right? The man started to carve the knife into Adam's cheek, and he screamed again.
Aw, you gonna cry, big guy? Let me sanitize that wound.
He poured more of the acid, but this time on the wound. Adam shrieked loudly. I never thought I'd hear a person shriek this way. I felt bad for Adam. He was being tortured for something he knew nothing about, and now he was learning a disturbing truth about Judy. A truth I still couldn't process properly. I'm ashamed to admit that a sick part of me, the part that admires the intelligence of serial killers, was enjoying Adam's torture. I hated him for stealing Judy from me. Even when I now know she left to protect me, I was still angry that this guy always flaunted how he had her. The man finally pulled away from Adam, and Adam kept screaming and cursing at him. He approached me once more. This time, I was truly terrified.
Matthew, you are a good man. Please cooperate with me. It's for everyone's good.
I was confused. What are you talking about? I won't let you kill her. I can't. You can't keep making them live in fear and disguise like this. I replied, voice trembling. The man gave me a very confused look that slowly turned to amazement. He finally spoke.
Oh, so you know things after all. Is it the diary?
He asked enthusiastically, as if he was a child. I nodded, my face a mix of confusion and terror. He laughed.
My, you think I'm a hunter, do you? No, my dear, no. I want to save her from the hunters. She is my daughter, after all.
I was shocked. My God, this was Jeremiah, the man who forced her to go into exile and left her to the hunters. Her father. He could see how my face shifted, and he spoke.
I don't want to hurt you. You've been good to my daughter and kept her safe for years. Please, help me find her.
I could see a saddened expression on his face as his voice became more and more upset. How do you know? I asked after a long pause. He explained.
I never truly left her. I always kept tabs on her. I knew everything going on in her life. That wasn't until yesterday. She disappeared completely, and you two are the last known people to have been in contact with her.
Suddenly, Adam started laughing maniacally.
Well, if it ain't the great Jeremiah, Lord of the Vampires. I was hoping I could bring the bitch's head to my leaders to be accepted back into the guild, but now I have you instead.
He instantly stood up, finally breaking his restraints as he lunged at Jeremiah, pinning him to the wall. He was choking Jeremiah with both hands as he lifted him off the ground. Jeremiah kept waving his arms at him. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A vampire can't defend himself against this hulking mass of a hunter. I knew I had to do something. I also knew that Adam wasn't going to let me live since I know about the hunters now. I didn't try to free my restraints, rather lunged at him while still tied to the chair. We both fell to the ground and the chair broke. I was now free, but still too weak to get up. Jeremiah grabbed the knife and slashed at Adam's neck, but he dodged at the last moment. He punched Jeremiah and sent him flying. As much as Adam was strong, I felt that Jeremiah wasn't trying to fight. I remember how Judy talked about that oath, that he should never kill hunters or humans unless necessary. I decided to help. I wrapped the now free restraints around his neck from behind, strangling him. He was too strong even for his size. He kept flailing and turning around violently, and I was barely holding on to the leather rope around his neck, trying to squeeze harder. Then, from out of nowhere, Jeremiah came in front of him and sank the knife in his good eye. Adam screamed and punched Jeremiah, but this time, Jeremiah caught his hand. I could hear bones cracking as Jeremiah squeezed Adam's hand in his palm before twisting it and ripping it off his arm. He was now not moving as strong as he was, and I took this chance to strangle him until he laid motionless on the ground. I laid beside him, panting and trying to catch my breath. Jeremiah lent me his hand and pulled me up.
Now you know why I must find her, and you will help me,
he said with determination as we shook hands. Believe me, there is nothing more I'd love to do other than saving her. But I really have no idea where she is.
Aren't you a good detective? Find her then,
he said as if mocking me. Aren't you her father? You literally raised her and lived with her for centuries. I retorted, feeling so proud of myself for that comeback. I instantly regretted it as he lifted me up and slammed me to the wall.
Don't play smartass with me, kid. Understand?
I could see how serious he was now. I guess Judy failed to describe his temper exactly. He put me down and we walked outside. I broke the silence by asking him, "So, how do you think I can find her?" This time, I was being serious.
Her blood runs within yours. I can follow that trail.
What? I don't understand. What are you talking about? I was confused.
Us vampires can follow the blood trail of one another through a live host. I guess she failed to mention that in her diary. Or, more accurately, she knew nothing about that power. The reason we kill our victims after taking their blood is that this way we cannot be tracked. Not even by our own kind.
My confusion was increasing. But she never took my blood. I didn't even know she was a vampire until last night. Then I remembered. The first time we made love. She did bite me several times, but I just thought it was a kink or something back then. I looked at my left shoulder. There was a specific bite mark she left on me that night that still was present on me till this day. So, how exactly do we follow a blood trail? I finally asked.
There's no we in that. I will find her myself. Your part is only to help me follow the blood trail.
No way. If you're going to do this, then I'm coming with you. This is important to me. Besides, she really hates you now. Let me talk to her. He rolled his eyes, then sighed.
Fine. You already know too much, and the hunters will be after you anyways.
We went back to my house. I prepared some dinner for us both. I don't know why I was friendly with him. The guy literally kidnapped me in my sleep and was ready to torture me. And besides that, he was the reason why my Judy was on the run. But, somehow, I could feel a great grief and guilt within him. So, I decided to ask him. "So, what's the deal with you? Too afraid to fight?"
What do you mean?
"Adam, you were pretty much backing the entire fight. It's like you didn't want to kill him, even though you could have finished him off in seconds. What's that all about?" Alice, mentioned in her diary you were too afraid to fight the hunters. Why? He stared into nothingness and took a deep breath. He then spoke.
What I do for reasons you would never understand.
He just said that, not even caring how hollow he sounded. I got angry. "Listen, you. I don't care if you're an elder, a vampire, or whatever the fuck you are. I care about Judy, and I will save her. So if you want to help, you better be clear with me, okay?" He turned to me, anger filling his eyes, then instantly turned to grief again.
Did she ever tell you about me?
I shook my head. All she ever told me was, you and her mother died when she was young. He chuckled sadly.
I never wanted any of that to happen.
I was too curious to know what he meant, but I decided to not press the matter any further. For now, at least. "So, how do we follow the blood trail?" I asked him.
Show me the bite mark.
He said, standing up and approaching me. I opened my shirt and showed him my shoulder.
Okay. This is going to hurt a little bit.
He said before biting me in the same spot. He kept digging his teeth into my shoulder for a minute before he pulled away.
I know where she is now.
Many centuries ago, Sir Richard Allen, Jeremiah's great-grandfather, became the first vampire. It was that altar in the woods where he made the pact with a stranger to save his people. On that altar, he became the first vampire when he broke his word and was forced to kill his son and drink his blood. On that very same altar, Jeremiah made peace with the vampire hunters in January of 1715. Jeremiah followed his daughter's blood trail through me, and it led the two of us to that altar. What the hell was she thinking? She was walking right into where the hunters lived. We traveled to that old European town of the Richards. Jeremiah took me to a diner to get something to eat. It was oddly decorated, having the vibes of a medieval tavern, yet so warm and cozy compared to the freezing weather outside. Jeremiah looked at me and said,
Go ahead. Ask. I can see curiosity written all over your face.
I won't lie, I have questions. First off, how were you tracking her all this time? He took a sip of his drink.
I was the first tracker of my kind. I know things no one else does. I know how to track other vampires even without being actually around them. I'm sorry if that doesn't answer your question, but that's the best way to say it. There are so many different ways to track someone, and I just can't name all of them now.
I scratched my head in confusion, then asked my second question. So, I know from the diary that the stranger told Sir Richard Allen that his family will always be the ruling family. Why aren't you ruling anymore? If you made peace with the hunters, why didn't you come back here and rule in peace?
You sure are a smart one. You focus on many details. You see, we made peace with the hunters, but that didn't mean it was safe to stay next to them. It took my people some time to adjust to the new ways. We needed to be out of their reach for that time.
I nodded, then on with the next question. How does it feel, being a vampire? Alice wrote in her diary that your nature was monstrous, and you can't control it? How do you control it?
It feels cold. We need blood to survive. But the more blood you taste, the more blood you want. Like an addiction, if you may. This is why I tend to make my people drink more animal blood instead of human. It's less appealing, but it's less problematic that way. I try to teach them at an early stage to take blood with irregular doses. We can still eat normal food anyway, and we don't need our full strength for anything. We are peaceful creatures.
I smiled and took a bite of my sandwich. I was beginning to feel warm around this man, like a father type of warmth. I never knew my father. He died before I was born. Jeremiah felt familiar. Maybe that was Judy's effect on me. I still had more questions, however. How did you make peace with the hunters? Jeremiah stopped suddenly, and his eyes glared as a mixture of anger and sadness. Did I hit a nerve? What was that he told me before? What I do for reasons you would never understand. I was becoming more curious. Listen, I'm sorry if my question bothered you, but I need to know if you can help me fight more hunters, if we encounter any. I said, trying to calm him. He turned to me slowly and spoke with great sadness.
Oh, I've long awaited this moment. I wanted to take this burden off my chest. I couldn't say it to any of the others, not even to my own children. But I can tell you everything. I think you are now somewhat familiar with what the stranger does. He comes to you when you're most desperate and gives you what you need and something bad for return.
I took a deep breath. I knew he had a reason for all his behavior. One with such a bad temper can't just stop himself from killing the one threatening his family for no reason. He continued.
When I sent my family away before speaking with the hunters, I did it to save them. I knew they would kill me anyway, so I wanted to make them believe I was the last vampire. I met the stranger on the way. I can't tell you how I knew it was him, but I just did. He told me that he could help me. He could let me walk out of that slaughterhouse alive and go back to my family. There were conditions, however. I could never kill a hunter in my life, or all vampires will be doomed. Also, no one from my family could ever know of this. Back then, I thought it was simple and easy enough. That's what I used to tell the other vampires. But I could see more and more vampires turning rogue and giving in to their lust for blood. I had to stop them without an explanation. I lost both of my children. Both of them. Because of that damn oath.
I could see a tear making its way down his cheek. I put a hand on his shoulder and gave him a reassuring nod. I don't know how painful this must be for you, but I promise you, I will save your daughter.
He smiled at me and got up.
We have to move. I need to show you the altar.
We walked outside, and on the way, he returned the courtesy of asking me questions.
My turn with the questions. Tell me, detective, what do you feel towards Judy now?
I don't know. If you were in my place, what would you feel?
I'm not in your place, am I? Besides, the question is about you, not me.
I don't know. I'm angry with her. I feel betrayed. I'm worried about her, and I miss her.
See? That's what I've been feeling ever since she left. What do you intend to do when we find her?
We have to find a safe place to go to first. Then, we shall see. We arrived to where the altar was supposed to be, but to my surprise, it was nothing like in the diary. Judy said it was an altar in the middle of the woods, but we were standing in front of a museum in a very quiet place. It was 3 in the morning, so the place was closed and guarded, obviously. I thought it was an altar in the woods.
It was, yeah. Back when Sir Richard Allen was alive. It's been centuries, you dumbass.
Okay. So, how do we get inside?
I'll distract them, and then we sneak in.
Jeremiah used some vampiric tricks to distract the guards, and we got in. It was empty. Not a single soul in sight. Jeremiah sighed.
Ugh, she's not here.
You just know that?
I told you I'm a good tracker. She's not here. We'll come again in the morning, like normal visitors.
We got out the same way we got in. As we walked back to the hotel where we stayed for the rest of the night, I could see a large old castle in the distance. House Allen, I supposed. I don't know if Jeremiah could read my thoughts, but he suddenly replied.
Yes, that's our old place. Would you like to stay there for the night instead of the hotel? That would be great, so we can alert every single hunter within a 10-mile radius.
What?
They put surveillance all over the castle. They don't want us to go anywhere near it. They knew I wouldn't fight them, so they've been pushing their luck a little bit.
We went back to the hotel and slept. I couldn't really sleep. I just laid in bed. My mind was so crowded with thoughts and running different scenarios with the possible outcomes. So many possibilities. I didn't know what to do or how to feel anymore. I was trying to save the people from the person taking their blood before killing them. But now, I was saving that person. I didn't even know what I was saving her from. I turned on the bed and I could see that Jeremiah was sleeping peacefully on the other bed across the room. I slowly got up and walked to the table where we kept our stuff. I didn't mean to be looking through his stuff, but I saw a folded piece of letter that piqued my interest. I opened it, and it was clear to me that this was a letter written by Adrian, Judy's brother. The letter read,
Dear Father, this is probably the last you will ever hear of me. I don't expect to make it out of this war alive. Even if I did, I'll never be the same as I was. I thought centuries of killing people for blood and hunting down our own kind would have shown me the worst this world had to offer, but I was greatly mistaken. Those humans, I've witnessed their cruelty firsthand. If we are the monsters, then they are the devils themselves. I've seen horrors done here, horrors that would justify each and every one of us going on a killing spree of his own. We kill out of necessity to survive, but them? They do it out of hatred and selfishness. I followed your orders for centuries and obeyed you even though you and me both know I disagree with your methods. You know I respect you enough to not disobey you, but the cruelty and evil I witnessed from humans has changed that. Not a single one of our kind deserved to be hunted down and killed by us for the sake of these monsters. From now on, I don't care what happens to us. I will go on a killing spree, and I won't stop until I die. We're all doomed anyway. I hope one day you can open your eyes and see what I've been trying to show you for centuries. We should unite ourselves and kill them all. They don't deserve to live.
As I finished reading that letter, tears started to form in my eyes. I remembered what Judy wrote in her diary about Adrian getting killed during the Great War. I carefully folded the letter and put it back in its place. I looked at Jeremiah, and I felt really bad for him. He had to live with all that guilt, and he couldn't talk to anyone about it. I went back to my bed and tried to sleep. When noon came the next day, we both got ready and went back to the museum. It was no longer that quiet and empty building we were in last night, rather full of people of all ages and too loud. Jeremiah pointed me to the receptionist and asked her where we can find the altar of Sir Alan Henry. She told us to take the second corridor to the left and then go downstairs, one floor. I showed her a picture of Judy and asked her if she saw her before. She nodded and told us she was the one giving the guide at the altar. She mentioned how much knowledge Judy had about the altar. We thanked her and we were on our way. So, this is it. Any last thoughts or regrets you want to share before we go? I asked Jeremiah. He put his hand on my shoulder.
Kid, I want to thank you for everything. You were kind to my daughter and kept her safe for years. She was no longer the angry monster she was when she left me. You also helped me get a very heavy weight off my chest. And I don't know how to repay you for that. I am sorry we had to meet the way that we did.
He chuckled before giving me a fatherly hug. Something I never felt before. We went downstairs and we saw there was already a tour in place. We quietly blended in, not wanting to alert her. She had her back to us while talking about the history of the altar. The altar was a bright dark crimson, as if it was painted with blood. It had a circular bowl at the center, with small angelic-like creatures kneeling beneath it, lifting it on their shoulders. It looked creepy to me. Throughout the entire tour, we were avoiding her and getting out of her sight. She didn't notice us, but I was sure she felt a familiar presence. She looked much different than the last time I saw her. She now had neck-length black hair and dressed so formal. She was still as beautiful as always regardless. I looked at Jeremiah, and I noticed he was trying his best to hold his tears all the time. When the tour was over and everyone left, she went behind the altar and sat on a chair to rest. We learned from the receptionist earlier that she went by the name Sandra now.
Excuse me, Miss Sandra? I have a question. She turned and looked me straight in the eye. She stammered as soon as she saw us both. She looked terrified and shouted at Jeremiah.
Are you fucking out of your mind? Why did you bring him here? What game are you playing right now? How did you find me? What?
Honey, relax. I came willingly. I want to help you.
Help me? What do you think you're doing? I left you the diary so you know why I left and why you should not try to find me. What is wrong with you?
Why did you come here? Of all the places that you could have ran to, why here?
You don't get to ask me that question. You are the reason I'm on the run in the first place.
Can we just leave and talk somewhere else? I can see you're very upset, but let's go somewhere safe to continue this.
No, I'm not going anywhere. And you two, get the hell out of here now!
Adam is dead, okay? I killed him. He was a hunter and he was planning to kill you.
Oh, good. And then you saved me the effort of having to kill him myself.
What? You knew?
Of course I knew he was the one who killed Adrian. I've been tracking him ever since. He was thrown out of the guild because he stole and drank their life elixir, which is only given to their leader. That's why he was still alive for that long. But of course, this is of no concern to you, Father. Why would you try to hunt down your son's killer anyway? It meant war with the hunters.
She looked accusingly at Jeremiah, who was now looking shamefully at the floor. Look, Judy, I know you're upset with him, but he wants to save you.
You don't know what he did! I've been running for more than 60 years! I could have lived happily with you if it wasn't for him.
I walked to her and put my arms around her. We could have lived happily together had you been honest with me. You never would have met me if it wasn't for him. I said calmly, and I could feel her anger rising. I knew she wouldn't hurt me though.
Why is he here? Why are you back?
Sweetie, I never wanted any of this to happen, believe me. Let's just get out of here, and we can talk all we want.
As we made our way out, we found two men standing at the exit. Hunters. They haven't seen us yet. I looked at Jeremiah and he started backing away. Judy, on the other hand, was getting ready to slash her way through them, but I stopped her. Stay with your father. I'll take care of them.
What? No, you're in over your head. You don't know what they're like.
Don't worry. Trust me. Just take your father and go through the window. I made my way to them. I forgot one tiny detail. They knew about me. As soon as they saw me, they came running at me. I turned to run, but I found a third huge man blocking my way. They circled around me, and I could see one of them pulling a knife. Then, from out of nowhere, all the lights went out. Complete darkness. I heard a horrible shriek from above. I could hear the men screaming as sounds of ripping was audible. I felt a huge force pulling me up, and I was now in front of the window. I looked behind me, and I saw Judy. She was now different. Her mouth was covered in blood. She had elongated clothes in place of her nails that were covered in gore. But she still had that innocent look in her eyes as she looked at me worried. She slowly returned to her human form and spoke softly.
Are you okay? I trust you and I'm well aware of your capabilities, but trust me when I tell you this is way beyond your skills.
I nodded. Lights came back, and I can now see the horrific display of gore and savagery she left below. People began to scream and panic. Jeremiah looked at us both in anger.
Let's go!
Two hours later, we were in that tavern-like diner again. Judy was now calmer than earlier.
So, let me get this straight. You two morons tried to save me by leading them directly to me? Wow, what a great idea.
Well, going to where they are seemed to make their job much easier, genius.
Okay, everyone, calm down. Judy, why are you here?
I'm trying to find a way to remove our family curse. I don't want to keep living like this anymore.
And how do you plan to do that? Wash the altar from the bloodstains?
I'm trying to find the stranger.
Are you insane? You can't! No one can find him. He finds you. And no good come from dealing with this cursed deity.
Okay, say you found him. Then what? You think he's just going to unmake you a vampire? Have you thought of the consequences or what he might ask in return?
I'm still working things out. It's not like I found him already.
Maybe you're not desperate enough for this wish. You like what you are.
She looked at him with anger and hatred.
I swear, one more word and I will show you what I truly am.
She spoke with such anger I've never seen in her. She really hated him.
Don't forget, I am still your father. Show some respect.
Everyone started to look at us.
Well, Father, maybe you should have shown some responsibility and protected me instead of sending me on the run.
She got up angrily and left.
Let me talk to her. I told Jeremiah and got up, and I ran after her. Judy, wait! I pulled her arm, but she snatched it, almost sending me to the ground.
Get away from me! God, why are you here? What did he tell you? How dare he use you to get to me?
Honey, please calm down. I've been meaning to find you ever since I read the diary. I forgive you. I said, trying to put my arm on her shoulder. She was shaking from the cold, so I took off my coat and wrapped it around her. She was looking at me with those eyes again. Tears filled them, but they still glimmered beautifully under the moonlight. I grabbed her close and kissed her. Don't ever leave me again. You're the only person I have left in this world. She nodded and buried her face in my embrace as she cried. I haven't felt any of this love in so long that I wish time would just stop at this moment forever. I gently stroked her hair and kissed her head. Jeremiah came out and looked at us. I could see him smiling through tears. We stayed the night in the hotel. I was so exhausted, so I went straight to bed. But my insomnia woke me about 2 hours later. It was 1 in the morning. I looked at the bed across the room, and I could see Jeremiah still sleeping peacefully. How did he do that, I wondered. I felt a cold breeze brush against my face, and I noticed the balcony was opened. Judy was standing there, staring at the sky. I got up quietly and joined her. She glanced at me quickly, and then back to the sky again.
Remember how we used to stare at the stars?
I nodded.
I spent the last 2 years staring at the stars every night, thinking about you. I kept wondering whether I did the right thing or not, and looking at it now, you still got caught up in the mess I wanted to protect you from. What was the point of it all? What difference did I make? All I did was hurt you, just like I do to everyone who ever gets close to me. I thought I was finally in control. I thought I left that part of me behind. You were the one thing that I had left, and I was so scared of losing you. I'm sorry I hurt you, and I'm sorry for dragging you into this.
She wore a very saddened expression on her face as she spoke. I wrapped my arm around her waist, and she leaned on me as we stared at the stars together. I too thought about you every night, you know. Don't blame yourself. I thought I was smart, always coming up with the right deductions. I should have known better. I hated the way you made me feel when you left. I hated how replaceable I felt, and I hated myself so much for losing you. I thought it was all because of me. Never had I once tried to think why you truly left. I am so glad to have you back. We'll face this together, and everything is going to be okay. I promise. I kissed her head, and we stood there cuddling and watching the stars all night. We left early in the morning. We didn't want the hunters to go on our trail for long, so we left the village and went into the woods. Judy was no longer upset with us, but she still wasn't talking to her father. As we made our way, a storm came. We found a shack in the woods, and we took shelter inside. Something felt off, but I couldn't really put my hand on it. The shack was eerily quiet in comparison to the raging storm outside, and the place smelled wrong. But I couldn't really complain about things being unnatural. I was accompanied by 2 vampires. The shack had a kitchen and a bedroom. I went to the kitchen to make us some hot drinks to warm ourselves. All shelves and drawers were empty, but smelled of rot and decay. I opened the last drawer and found a skull inside it. I instinctively screamed as I backed away from it, and Jeremiah rushed to me. He looked terrified and stared me in the eyes.
He's here.
Suddenly, the skull rose from the drawer, and black and red smoke began to form around it, making a silhouette of a man. Me and Jeremiah ran back to the hole, and Judy joined us. The stranger was now here. He looked at the 3 of us, and then he fixed his gaze upon Judy.
Well, look who we have here.
He then turned to Jeremiah.
Hello, old friend. How are you? Being a good man and keeping your oath, aren't you?
Judy stood in front of us and spoke.
I need you to help me.
My heart sank. We haven't discussed what we were going to do, and she just walked directly into the stranger's trap. The stranger laughed, and then he spoke.
Child, you don't get to make demands. I'm not here for you.
He looked at me, and I felt every muscle in my body tense, and adrenaline rushed through me like never before.
Detective Matthew Bryan, I'm honored.
He bowed, then continued.
No one knows of my existence, unless I make myself present for them to help with their desperation. Except for you. I could feel your desperation, but as for me, you are desperate to know what I am, aren't you?
I was terrified. I felt this urge to find out more about him ever since I read the diary, but I was ignoring it as hard as I could. He was right. I wanted to know what he was.
Look at me! I am the one who needs you!
He looked at her with anger and scowled.
What do you want? To be a normal human? For what? For him? You fool. You are giving up on my great gift for some mortal. Fine. But I can't feel desperation in you. Rather, a need. So there is a test for you. With your pearls, we shall make a deal.
She looked uncertain now, and then she looked back at me. I could see in her eyes what her answer was going to be. I was amazed that she was willing to give up her powers for my sake. I never asked for any of this. But I guess she really loved me after all.
Fine. Let's hear it.
Or you shall have control over your body for the next 5 minutes. If you break free, then you'll have your deal. But beware. If you fail, you will remain under my control. Forever.
No! Wait! Don't do this, Alice! Please!
I'm sorry, Father. I am no longer that obedient child you knew.
Tears filled her eyes as she looked at the stranger and nodded. The stranger laughed as he raised his hand, and I could see her twitching and her claws growing. She was taking her vampire form, And it was even scarier than what I saw at the museum. She shrieked horribly, and then she looked at me with predatory eyes. She started approaching me with purpose, and I was frozen in place. In an instant, Jeremiah came between us and pushed her, sending her into the wall. He turned to me, and I could see he was in his vampire form too.
Run!
He said and lunged at his daughter, trying to buy me some time. I was making my way to the door of the shack when the stranger came into view and blocked my way.
Oh, you're not going anywhere. Not yet.
I didn't know what to do. I'm smart enough to know I can't fight my way through him, but I wasn't going to make a deal with him. I prayed Judy could break free and we could all make it out. I will not bargain with you, I yelled at him. Then, I felt it. A sharp pain in my back. Judy. She dug her long clothes into my back, lifting me up and threw me into the wall. She stared at me and approached me again to finish me off. But our eyes met, and she stopped. She transformed back to her human form in an instant, and she ran to me crying.
Oh God! Oh God, no! No, Matthew, wake up! Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please get up! What did you make me do? Why?
I showed you your true potential. Jeremiah kept you in check, and you never truly knew what you were capable of. Do you really want to give up all this strength for this pathetic creature? He's too afraid to bargain for what he wants.
Yes, I do! You don't know him, he's good. He doesn't deserve that. Please, please save him.
See? Now you're desperate. Here's what's gonna happen. I will save him, and in return, you will stay a vampire, far stronger than any other vampire existed before. Even stronger than Jeremiah and Richard. The hunters will know better than to hunt you.
Take me instead. Let the boy live and make her human, and take me. Kill all the vampires if you will, but let these two live in peace and safe from the hunters.
Judy couldn't believe what she was hearing, and I was starting to black out. The door suddenly opened with force. The hunters found us. This time, they were led by their leader himself. The stranger turned to them with such anger I've never seen in my life, and I hope I never see it again. He spoke.
Right, being interrupted. How dare you?
The hunters were spooked. They've never seen him or heard about him before. The leader took a silver spear and threw it at the stranger, and it just went through him. He looked at them.
Fine. You hunters are no more.
And then, they all disintegrated. The hunters were now literally no more. He turned back to Jeremiah.
So, Jerry, are you sure you want this?
Yes. I have lived more than I wish to, and I'm tired of living with this burden you placed upon me. Please, free me from it.
Fine. So be it. Your daughter and her lover shall be spared. But you doom your entire race now.
Farewell, family.
I blacked out. The next thing I remember is waking up at home. Was this all a dream? I looked at the clock and it was 9 a.m. I got up and went to wash my face. I saw a silhouette in the mirror behind me, but as soon as I turned, I didn't see anything. I must have imagined it, I thought to myself. I looked at the mirror again and it was the stranger. Only this time it was me. I was the stranger. I woke up in a panic, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt a hand touch me and I jolted away from it.
Hey, Hey, baby, it's okay. It's me. It's just me. Judy.
I was at my house and she was with me. What happened?
My father, Jeremiah, he saved us.
I sighed and then hugged her. I need to find something to tell the police, I said jokingly. She laughed and kissed me. This was a year ago. We've been living happy ever since, and she's no longer a vampire. Just my sweet Judy. Sometimes I get nightmares about the stranger. I still have this urge to find out more about him. I searched for anything I could find on the internet, but to no avail. He haunts my dreams. I think he wants me to find him again.